Hi, welcome to Adoption Now, telling your adoption story. We are your hosts, Noah and April. I'm so excited that you joined the show.
Thanks for having me.
We are the adoptive parents of 4 children. We said yes to 7 placements, so we definitely know the joys and challenges of adoption, and we decided to start the show so that we could talk about it, so that we could have a safe place and an honest place to have real conversations about adoption, not just the highlights, but not just complete lows, right? We found in the last 8 years doing this that we have learned so much, and there's always this great silver lining that comes through on stories.
I think that's what you started. I started it because I was tired of answering questions.
He did.
Every time we'd go out, people would be like, can you tell me everything about these 4 kids? I'm like, no, I can't.
But here's a podcast so that you can listen to it. I remember that is one of the things that we talked about when we started the show, is that we were going to hand people our card and say, right now at this grocery store, we don't want to tell you, or at this restaurant, but if you'd like more information about adoption, here you go. That's funny.
Worked.
It did work.
Yeah.
And we still do that because we are an interracial family, and the complexities of that are vast, right? And people do stop us and say things like, where did you get these kids? Somebody said, did you buy them from a store? We've had people say, oh, these 3, so cute. What's her story? Yeah. Looking at, we have a Colombian child and 3 African-American children. And so it's like, Lily's always like, oh, thanks. Like she's always singled out. Like we get these 3, but what's going on with this one? But thank God she's a very, very funny child. Yes. And so she's like hilarious. She's like, I'm their birth child. Remember when she used to say that?
She did.
So we have grown a lot in the show, and we talked about last episode. It's something that I'm just coming into this understanding of kind of the different eras when it comes to adoption. And we talked to a wonderful birth mother last week who is coming back on, and her father was adopted, and he kind of comes from that, you know, back in the day, adoption, when everything was closed, like we don't talk about it. You never bring it up. You can't ask questions. You don't know your story, and everything's fine. You're adopted, and so everything's great.
We don't talk about it. We don't have anything open at all. It's not even just closed as far as who or where, but literally you don't talk about it.
Right. And we're seeing that made for very upset and angry adoptees. And then we kind of moved into this newer era, which we talked about last week, doing our profile book as like a craft, where we were like cutting our pictures out and like doing like scrapbooking for our book. It was not digital.
Nope.
And all the things that we talked about last week were so mind-opening. Like when Jessica said that she had a hard time being matched. She's pregnant. She's having a hard time being matched because her mother had cancer and high cholesterol ran in her family. I mean, like it was crazy. To think 1.2 million families are waiting for a baby right now. I mean, that would be amazing. They would be so happy. She'd have so many families that would want to adopt her baby. Yeah. You know, and what we are talking about now are we going to pay $45,000 for a baby that's detoxing from drug exposure in utero? I mean, that's a completely different topic, right? Yeah. And adoption goes from, I'm just doing this like out of my heart, or I'm motivated because my church talked to me about it. It's moving from that to, this is the only way to become parents, right? Yeah. What do they say? 3 out of 10 families are
struggling with infertility.
Yeah. And so oftentimes this has changed. It's not like, oh, we want to do something good and bring a baby home. And so people are still doing that. Yeah. But the industry, I hate to use that word, has changed radically. And I just love this story because the heart of adoption stays true through the eras. I mean, it really does. And just understanding birth mom and understanding why adoptive parents choose adoption and understanding the adoptee's voice and how important that is what this show is about. It's adopting the whole story. Yeah. And we have just opened up Patreon. We're super excited about that. A lot of you want to know how you can give or how you can be a part of the community. Now, we love donations. That's how we've always, moved forward and produced the show, is through our donations, because we are a nonprofit. But if you want to join the community and you want to give monthly and you want to be a part of the podcast and you want to have story ideas, you want Adoption Now swag, we would love for you to jump on patreon.com/Adoption Now.
Is it still called swag, by the way?
We had to talk about that.
Eras.
Merch and swag both confused my mom. She's like, what the heck is that? She's like, what's a swag? And I said that on a couple of podcasts ago. It's just like stuff.
Yeah. It's branded stuff. It's really to help support the community and to really feel a part, because we are an international podcast now, which is pretty awesome to think about. Mm-hmm. We started as a local radio program and now it's international. And so we've even had families that have been on the show from overseas that will send us like care packages and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why we started this page, is to really make it feel a little bit more like we're connected somehow through that community. And so, we would love for you to join on Patreon.
All right. Awesome. So last week was amazing. I think we were both crying. If you listened to that show, you were definitely crying. If you haven't listened, you have to go back, because this birth mother's heart was just so raw and real. And it was 16 years ago that she placed her baby, and she went back into some of those emotions, and it was like it was happening right then, which is, it's just amazing to know that a birth mother loves their children. If they chose life and they chose placement and they chose the family, they love their baby, and that's why they're in it, and that's why they go through with it. It was an amazing story. But today she's back. Jessica from Florida, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi. And we also have Connie, who is the adoptive mother that you chose for your daughter.
Yes.
Connie, welcome to the show. Connie, don't start crying. You can't start the show crying.
Your fault. Your intro. And today is Madeline's 16th birthday.
Yes.
So it's amazing that you picked her birthday without knowing that today is her birthday.
I can't believe it either. We recorded both of these on the same day, and we're going to release them in November. But the fact that God chose this day to record is so special for the both of you and for the daughter that you share. And we love that we were a part of it. We didn't even know.
No.
He just sets this whole thing up. It's so cool.
I know.
All right, Connie. So we told a little bit about your story in the intro last week. We talked about how you and Matt got married when you were older and you tried to conceive, but it wasn't working, that you had pursued adoption traditionally and then stumbled upon embryo adoption. Let's start there, because this was 2003, 2004?
They were born in 2008. I got married in 2004.
Okay. So talk to us about how you even found out about embryo adoption.
So this woman that I went to high school with, was married 2 weeks before I got married. I was 39. So she and I had this similar story. And then they had infertility as well. But she was trying IVF. And my husband and I said, we'll try everything but IVF, because there's no guarantee you have a child at the end and it's so expensive. Mm-hmm. And so I started researching adoption agencies, and then I went with the one that we got, Madeline. But we were waiting at that point, we filled everything out and got everything lined up. And then this friend of mine went to an infertility specialist in New Jersey. I'm in Pennsylvania, who's on the cutting edge of infertility and is discovering everything that's pretty much new in helping couples. And he said, well, I think you can carry just fine, but I think your eggs are just too old. So they just started the program 3 months before or 6 months before or something like that. And I signed up because I thought, I didn't care if the child was biologically related to me, but I did want to know what it was like to be pregnant. And I'm like, this is an amazing gift, an opportunity, but there was no way I was going to do it twice. It was hard on the body. And by the time she was born, I was, when I brought Maeve home from the hospital, that was my 43rd birthday.
Oh
So
my
I knew
gosh.
with my age and everything, I didn't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
And I was still waiting. When I was pregnant with her, I was waiting to hear from the adoption agency because I knew I wanted 2 children.
Okay, so you didn't like just forget to pull your profile, right? You still wanted to be
Yeah, I wanted 2
considered.
children.
Okay. Okay, I have so many questions. So many questions because even right now in 2024, the idea of adopting a baby and carrying the baby is just so crazy to people. Like it blows people's mind. I want to know, what is it, 2007? What was that like explaining to everybody? Oh, I'm adopting a baby, but
They're like,
my
"What?"
baby. Yeah.
You know? And um it, yeah, I had to explain it. Nobody had heard of it. And frankly, until I saw your show, I only met one other person who did the same thing at the same place. And so she and I have a special bond, this mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I christened her baby. I'm a minister and I christened her baby
Oh
for
my
her.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were telling me that they were trying to match you like perfectly with another family, like even down to the color of your husband's hair.
Well, they take a picture of me and my husband. They have
Mhm.
pictures of the biological donors, and they do see if they can kind of look a little bit alike, make sure maybe we have some of the same interests and things so that we would just blend nicely. But they were sending the 3 that they sent for us to pick from, they were all accountants. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't fit us at all. I'm very
I need
creative. My husband's very creative,
oh,
and it just didn't sound like us at all. And
uh-huh.
so then the last second, and they had to hurry because I was getting to the end of taking my medicine and they needed to implant like that Monday. And this was like Friday. So or Thursday, and they overnighted one more that they just got because I had mentioned that my husband used to be a redhead before he turned gray. And they said, "Oh, yeah, I just got a profile from somebody on my desk today," and they sent it, and it sounded just right because the the egg donor for them sounded more like me, and then the biological father sounded like a lot like my husband. So, and
Okay, that's
she
just
is just like
crazy.
my husband.
That
She's a
is
lot like him.
so crazy to me because I've never heard that part. I don't know that they do that anymore, trying to
No,
match.
I don't think they do.
Because I had a lady come on, she's Caucasian and she gave birth to an African American embryo. So I don't know that
Yeah.
they're like matching that close anymore. And I wonder if at that time it was
It was new.
supposed to be like a blending in so it was as natural as possible. I mean, I don't know
Yes.
what benefit that would be
Just
if you're
compatibility, that
not
we'd
going to
have
tell.
maybe same abilities or talents,
Right. So they
same
would fit in with
interests.
your family.
Yeah, so we'd had something in common, I guess.
Good thing you didn't get an accountant. Boring.
Yeah, that's what I said. Every
Hey,
account I knew, I
creative.
was like, that doesn't describe us. And
Okay.
it's funny because Maeve is so much like my husband, who is very different from me. But I love that I actually can get to understand my husband better through her.
Oh yeah, we have a child like that too.
We do.
Adopt through
Yeah.
adoption,
Yeah.
and he is my twin. And
And then I've got one too.
and
She's
you
my
have a
twin.
twin.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we learn about the children from each other really tummy, and vice versa. So that can happen in adoption too, which is really wonderful. Okay, so you get this last embryo, and and you're pregnant.
Yeah, I'm pregnant. And then about 2.5 months before she's born, I get a call from the adoption agency, from who would have been supporting Jessica. I hadn't talked to that person before, and she said, "Congratulations, you've been chosen by birth mother who's having a girl, and she's due in October." And I was in the hospital taking a class on how to do natural childbirth. And I had to step out of the room, and I said, "Well, we never took the time to update our bio, but I'm pregnant with an adopted baby girl." And so, that's not on my profile. So, and I told her the whole story, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing." And she said, "Let me call her, make sure she's okay with it." And then she called back and she said her reaction was, "Oh my gosh, they're going to be raised like twins." And she was excited about it. So I was like, "Yes, we have our 2 girls."
What did your husband think about
Right.
through this whole thing?
So I said to him, are you okay with saying yes, or would you rather wait for a boy? I just wanted to ask, even though we never discussed it. I thought, now that we're saying, and he said, no, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So I'm like, are you sure? Because he's the type that just is easy, but not always honest with his feelings. So I'm like pressed a little bit. And he said, no, I'm fine. 2 girls will be great. Then as soon as we left the hospital, we went by Target and he saw this huge wall full of underwear. And he said, I'll never be able to pick out little boy underwear to match mine. And I said, see? And he goes, no, I'm just kidding. That's his humor.
Well, girl clothes are way cuter.
Girls rule. That's
Yeah,
right.
I remember when I said only boys, and then we were gonna pick up Lily, and I remember going to the girl section. I was like, oh my gosh, so cute.
Girls have cute stuff.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
They do make really cute boy clothes now, though, as well. Okay, so you're gonna have 2 girls 10 weeks apart. You're gonna deliver one. And you're gonna go to Florida and pick up another one. I mean, I just feel like at this point, people around you, their heads were exploding. First of all, you're pregnant with an adoptive baby. That's already like, wow. And now why don't you wait longer? Or is this the right timing? Is that what people were saying?
No, everybody was just so happy for us because they
Aw.
knew we were older and they knew all the infertility went through. And it's amazing because my husband has worked at the same company for over 30 years now, and it was family owned it was just sold recently, unfortunately. But they, so many people at that company had children, and some even adopted. But there's something about my husband's story that they threw him a baby shower, and they never did for anyone before or after.
Wow.
That's how happy they were for him, that he
Wow.
married late. And then they knew that we were trying to get pregnant, and years were ticking by, and they knew about we had lost a baby.
Mm.
We had a miscarriage. And then, so when he found out 2 were coming, everybody was so kind. They bought us beautiful things on our list. And
Aw, I love
very
that.
supportive.
Okay, so you find out that Jessica accepts that you're pregnant and she wants to stay matched, and you guys meet. Let's talk about the first meeting.
So the adoption agency calls me, calls her, and they're, so that way we can stay anonymous. And well, Jessica and I are very similar. We just, we were just sharing and laughing and open, and we were just so compatible immediately. Our energy was just perfect for each other. And the poor woman, I think, wanted to go home, and it was getting late, and it would have been over an hour. And she said, well, you seem very comfortable with each other. May I ask you, do you want to set up another time, or are you comfortable sharing your phone numbers with each other? And I said, I'm okay. And she's like, I don't care. And so we exchanged phone numbers, and we hung up. We called each other directly. And then we started talking to each other. We were sharing our pregnancies, and, we had a terrible pregnancy rash and heartburn, and talking about names and just all kinds of stuff. We shared our pregnancy together. How wild is that?
I think that's wild. I have never heard that.
No.
Super wild.
Two people pregnant at the same time, a birth mother and an adoptive mother. I think that is really, really special. And I think that it's special that Jessica was like, okay. That a lot of people would be like, well, you're going to have a baby. And I've heard this before. What if you don't give my baby the same attention? I want to give my baby to someone or place my baby with someone who doesn't have any children. And so they're the only child. I hear this a lot.
Or even older children.
Yeah, right.
Not having.
Really?
Yeah, we do. We do hear that a lot. And so I just think it's so cool that she was like, twins, yay.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I never had that thought at all.
No, I wouldn't have either.
I didn't.
They would have playmates.
My first instinct was just twins. How fun.
Yeah.
I
Never
love
even
this
thought about it.
story so much because
We're both very open.
I love to say I love. I love it. But
Well, you do.
I hear a lot of stories. I've been doing this for a while, right? So I feel like I've heard almost everything. I really do. But in this case, It is so cool that you guys connected. And what I love is that we're always explaining that when you adopt the whole story, you could be adopting a birth mom, a birth dad, children. You could really open your heart to more than just the baby. That's like our biggest message. But Connie, you're doing this way before that message. And the great thing is she did need a mother in some ways. Like she said that you became role models for her. She did need you as much as you needed her. And as much as there was a baby in the midst, it's like you guys all needed each other.
Yeah.
It was a match for all of you.
It was. It is divine. This is divine. That's all I can say. It's so clearly perfect. It's so clearly perfect.
Jessica, you said
I
no.
swear, I personally believe that this was all worked out in heaven before we ever came.
Yes. Jessica, you had said before that you really felt like because your mother had passed away, that you really wanted a stable home. I always ask birth mothers, what did you see on her pictures that you loved? And it wasn't like a dog or it wasn't a thing. It was a feeling you got when you looked at their profile. It was the stability and the love. Let's talk about that just for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had heard on another one of your podcasts where you had explained that you hear birth moms say that when they're looking for families, that they are looking for maybe something that was missing or a different scenario, something that they would have wanted, and I didn't have my mom. Yeah, we don't need to talk about my childhood, but it just wasn't it just wasn't great. I felt like when I saw Matt and Connie's profile, I felt like they were real. They really put themselves into their bio. It didn't feel fluffed. I felt like they are coming off as just being very genuine. And they seem, at the time before speaking with them, that they seemed happy in their marriage. They had, these stability. Stability, I think, is really primarily what I was looking for. And I just wanted my baby to be with a family that could maybe give her opportunities that I wasn't able to give to her, or I felt that I wouldn't have been able to give to her. And I felt that, the two of them just, I don't know. I felt like I just knew that they were right for me.
And you asked her and her husband to be in the room with you when you gave birth, right?
It was something that came up, I think, as part of the process where they asked if I would be okay if they wanted to be present. They gave me the option to say no, but I told them that I didn't mind. And I mean, Connie and you guys wanted to be there. And I think we had talked about it and I didn't mind.
I don't think that was something I would have even considered asking. Like I never, it wouldn't have crossed my mind to be like, hey, can I?
Wasn't it on your application? When you were filling out your information, is that one of the questions?
No, they never asked us anything.
No.
Did they ask you, Jessica, on the paperwork? Because they did ask, do we want an open adoption or?
I know for a fact that the options were like open, closed, and then they had this other option that was in between. And where it was kind of,
they had an option that was like, be in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
Up next to me.
Super open.
Super open.
That's the option I want.
What's great though is the vulnerability that you both had is why this, it's not just why, but it's one of the biggest reasons why it worked so well. And I think, especially as a male, I think we tend, kind of like what you said, Connie, I'm also one of those guys who just isn't always fully honest with my own emotions. But one of the things that April has really helped and taught me is the more open and vulnerable you are, it's actually the more healthy and the more beneficial it is for the relationship. And to see that both of you were already in that space is pretty cool too. I think when you hear this story, you go, oh my gosh, how in the world did this work? And I honestly think one of the biggest reasons it worked is because you were both so open and vulnerable with each other.
Mm-hmm. I think that you were both saying, I want to like you. And the other one was saying, I want to like you. And I think where it breaks down sometimes is when people don't understand open adoption or they don't understand the birth mother's role, which I can say that's where we were when we started in 2010. We had other people like, you don't want open, you want closed. Do you want a mom coming in and taking your baby? Do you want a mom? And we were like, oh my gosh, we're so scared. And I remember feeling so terrified to meet anyone. But I'm not like that. That's not who I am as a person. I want this relationship. I see the two of you. I'm like, this is so great. Like, I love that. But because of what other people were telling me or the way adoption is viewed, I was falling into that more. So I presented more closed. And I just want to say, if you're listening to this today and you're kind of confused, maybe you have family members or people saying you should act this way or you should say this or don't say this. I want to tell you, be yourself. Throw yourself out there because this is amazing. This relationship, it might not always go like this, but at least you put your authentic self out there and you can't apologize for that, right? And you can't listen to anybody else to talk you out of that. You just be you and show up. If you're loving or you're talkative or you're outgoing, be that person. And the right match will come because you guys decided to be in a relationship for 16 years and plus forever, right?
Oh, forever.
Yes.
We're family. She's not Madeline's adoptive mother. She's our family. And so are her children.
I want to be a part of that. I want to come over.
Yeah. So the first time she flew up with her boys, her husband stayed home because she had, I don't know if Aurora was like
Aurora was a baby.
like a year or something. And anyway, she came up with just the boys the first time to our house because we had been down to her. And gosh, and now I just lost my track of thought. What were you saying?
We were just as big.
I want to come over.
We want to be
I said,
part of that family.
Oh, right. So they come in my house and I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. I really don't. It's amazing. I don't know if you're my niece. I don't know if you're my cousin. I don't know what it is, but it's real. And I can't define it. And she agreed. She goes, I feel exactly the same way. And we were all giddy because we were so happy to be together again. And I said, okay, kids. So her boys are sitting in front of me and my girls are sitting in front of me. And I said, okay, they're here for a week. So I'm Mama, she's Mommy. And all 4 kids called me Mama and Mommy. And we were both mothers. And that's how so if they say mom, we know who they're calling.
Right. I think that that's really great for people who are trying to write letters to their birth mom. Just talk to her as a mother. You're a mother and she's a mother. Talk that way. Because you mentioned in the last episode how hard it was for we could not write the letter. It was like fictitious. It was like, dear imaginary friend. You know, and we're like, what do you say? Thank you for your baby. No, I'm a great mom. No, you just don't know. But if I could have just said, you know, and sometimes we need to see a face like you, Jessica. Like if I'm talking to Jessica, what would I write? If I was talking to another mother that I'm going to be in this relationship for maybe ever, which is so, it could be so exciting, how would I write it then? So maybe that will help you in how you connect to your birth mother if you are about to meet her. I have a lot of people that are about to meet and they're very nervous. I want to talk about the hospital. You give birth, Connie, and we told a little bit about you had to get a C-section.
Yeah. So, well, my body had no idea how to be pregnant and Maeve was perfect. She was upside down, ready to go. And my cervix never softened. They tried doing it with drugs and my body didn't know how to deliver a baby. So I woke up early one morning and went, oh my gosh, I've got to get this kid out of me. She's already a week late and I have to heal to go to Florida. So I called the doctor's office and said, I need a C-section. So we did it the next day. And I recovered slower because I was older and I do recover from things slower than a lot of other people. And I literally was just starting to feel well enough when I could still talking to Jessica and I could feel she was coming soon. And I finally said to myself, what would you do to see this baby be born? Because I didn't see the baby that I delivered be born. I didn't get to enjoy any of it. And so I was like, I want to see what this is now that I didn't get to do. I want to be there for my other baby and I want to see this, be a part of it. So I was panicking because I had a 9-week-old baby and my husband couldn't go with me at first. He was going to have to come when she was born because of work, because we didn't know how long we had to stay in state until we could leave. So we had to really keep him as close to delivery as possible to come, so he could stay. And so anyway, luckily my mother, who was in her 70s and just started a business, an alternative health center, was talking to her practitioners and saying she just opened the center, and she's like, oh, Connie wants to go to Florida and she wants to be there and see her baby be born, blah blah blah. And they said, don't worry, we got this. So my mom's handicapped; she was polio, and I put her in a wheelchair holding Maeve, took a flight with a layover. Gosh. Rented a car. The rental car said they had car seats. Here it was for toddlers, not infants, 9 weeks old. I was so upset. So my mom's holding the baby illegally, trying to get to our rental house. GPSs just came out, and they were the kind that had this sandbag on the bottom that you put on your
it's like the old Garmin.
We borrowed it from a friend, and I found out where the local grocery store was and went and bought the car seat and stuff, and settling my mother and the baby so my mom could help out with Maeve if I needed to leave. And then it turns out the house I rented was across the street from the neighborhood Jessica was living in with her aunt and uncle and her grandmother and her kids, her boys. So we went out to dinner. We met for the first time, and I took the boys out to dinner, and just setting things up, and then just doing the waiting game, And then one night I got a call like 10 o'clock at night that she and her Aunt Kim had rushed to the hospital, and here it was a false labor thing. And, so then we all went back home again. And then she decided that she wanted her to be born on her due date. And so I called my husband and said, you have to take the very first flight to get here. So luckily, one of my classmates from seminary had a church in Orlando, and I said, I'm in the hospital. I'll be in the hospital tomorrow. Can you please pick my husband up at the airport and bring him down to the hospital? Which was about, 45 minutes away or something. It was, and so he picks him up, and I'm like, where are you now? She's going to come soon. And he said, we just left. And I'm like, oh, hurry. And then I called back, and I'm thinking, how am I going to tell him where our rental car is to him to put his luggage in? And, because he wouldn't know the car. He wouldn't know. How would I describe in the parking lot it was? I wasn't leaving the room. And then I called again. I'm like, where are you? He said, well, I'm just passing Disney World. I'm like, okay, you're 10 minutes away. Hurry. So I tell him how to get in the hospital, go to the front desk. They said they would take his luggage, go to the elevator where it was, go up their floor, turn right, ring the doorbell. He comes in the room. The room is full of people. I don't know why there were that many people in this room, and they were all quiet.
She invited everybody. Everybody can come.
She's laying in the bed, her legs in stirrups with a sheet over her, and Matt walks in the room, and I go, and everyone's quiet, and I said, Matt, Jessica, Matt, and she goes, hey. It was so great. And then everyone stood there, and it was perfectly quiet. And I didn't have a natural child breath, so I didn't know what was going on. And I finally said, what's happening? And everyone turns and looks at me at the same time. And they said, we're waiting for Jessica to say she's ready, when she's ready to push. I was like, oh, okay. And then when she said, we're ready to go, the doctor told me to come over by the side and to grab a hold of her leg. And Matt was on the other side, up a little farther. And so then the head starts to frown, and the head comes out, and the doctor says, everything's fine, but the umbilical cord is loose around her neck. Hold on, don't push. And she starts to take it off, and then she says, oh, wait, I think there's two. And I went, what?
2
And I look at
babies?
Jessica, and we all thought she meant 2 babies.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
what did she mean? 2 coils?
It was
or something?
wrapped around.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, I had another baby back in our rental house. I didn't sign up
Can't
for
take
this.
2. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. We had a story like that where the doctor came out and said, "Congratulations, it's a boy." And we were there to adopt Lily.
Yeah.
You remember that? We were
Yes.
like,
What?
Oops,
was it a
no.
boy? And then he was like, oops, wrong family. And then he leaves and we're like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that funny? Okay, so she's healthy. You carried full term because they induced you. We talked a little bit about that. And how much did she weigh? Do you remember?
It was 7 pounds 3 ounces. I looked it up.
Oh, you looked it up. And then how much was
Yeah.
Maeve?
She was bigger. She was just under 8 pounds.
Okay. Oh my gosh. That's like my dream.
I just want to share something. So I was told that she was okay with us being in the delivery room,
Uh-huh.
but that was it. Because once she and I exchanged phone numbers, the adoption agency really wasn't communicating much with us. We were kind of on our own at that point. So like they were going to be there once she was born, but they didn't guide us anymore. And we were just feeling our way through everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to be open and push myself out of my comfort zone to say, thank you so much for letting us in. This is so great because, I had a C-section and they were really very sloppy about all of it too, actually. And I didn't have a great experience with Maeve's birth. So I said, she also put on her form that she wanted to hold Madeline first. So I knew that was going to happen. And I'm like, great, that makes sense. So then I said, okay, Jessica, so we're going to be in the room with you, but where do you want us? Do you want us up by your head?
Stage left, stage right.
Yeah, I want to know because
Yeah.
I'm not making any assumptions here, and I want you to be comfortable. You're in control. She was in control, but she didn't know it, but I was telling her, you communicate with us and we will do what you say. And that's what happened. So, and it happened through the whole thing. We were really worried about her.
Right.
Because I felt like a mama bear with her.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell some people off, but I didn't feel it was my place.
You should have.
You should have. April did that
I did
once.
it.
Well, in
I did it.
hindsight,
like the best
what I
thing
should have
ever.
done is asked her. If I had asked her, but her aunt was there, and I felt like her aunt should have done it. And maybe that wasn't her personality.
Your face right now, Jessica.
I didn't want to tread.
Like that, this part of the story is so hard for you, and I think that
awkward, but we kind of did the best we could.
Yeah.
But she was so amazing. She was comfortable with me breastfeeding Madeline and Maeve in her hospital room. And her friends came and brought gifts for Madeline to support Jessica.
Your face.
Yeah, and her boys were there.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And you gave birth to a baby.
Yeah.
And some people do breastfeed. They're able to take all the hormones even if they didn't give birth. But you were naturally producing milk.
Well, because I had Maeve, I could breastfeed both.
Right. Whew, that was a part of the story. I was like, wow, that's like chapter 7. Okay, I just want to say though, like her face, Jessica, your face is just telling it all. And those of you who are listening, if you're like, this is kind of a different format. Like this is what feels weird is that we've done this on YouTube. So there's a video and you can watch our faces and how we're responding, but you can see Jessica's face is just changing. And I think that there is this dynamic, Jessica, but I mean, it's emotional, but there's this dynamic where you're really close to the birth mother, right? And you can jump into the bed. I mean, I was like with, one of the birth moms in the hospital bed. I loved her so much. But the minute she gives birth and you're going to take the baby, it changes a little bit. It might go right back, but like you are not close friends because a close friend is not taking your baby. Do you know what I mean? Like there's emotions to be processed where I've heard a lot of times birth mothers feel almost like for a second it was threatening almost and like upsetting. And there was a little bit, and I'm not saying this for you, Jessica, I'm just trying to explain the dynamic. If your birth mother pulls back a little bit, there might be a little bit of jealousy, pain, anger. It's her saddest moment is your happiest moment. You have to remember that. And so in that, how are you best friends with the person who is making this whole thing sad, right? Not that she's doing that, but your perception of that for that moment. It is very normal for them to look confused. It's normal to pull back. It's normal for them to be hurt because this is hurtful.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right, Jessica? I don't want to speak for you, but do you feel some of those things, even though you deeply loved Connie?
Yeah, sure. It was awkward and beautiful, and we felt comfortable and uncomfortable, and each moment we were just trying to feel each other out, and there was
But
so
let
much
me
I wanted
let me
to
let her respond to that.
I knew that Connie would give me whatever I required
Mm-hmm.
after the process was over. I knew that the agreement, the contract had, at 2 weeks, 2 photos, at 4 weeks, 2 more photos and an update. And so it was very like rigid what the guidelines were for an open adoption on paper. And we were so beyond paper. And I knew that she would be there and supportive for whatever I felt I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And there were years where we weren't so close.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the beginning, really, because I did fly up. Connie performed a christening for Madeline when she was a baby, and graciously, like my church at the time paid for my plane ticket, and I flew up there and I stayed in their house, and that was so special. And then after I got home from that trip, I can't remember, honestly. I know we kept in touch like through email, and you were great about mailing me photos, and she would build these calendars with the girls. I have them all. I have a Madeline box full of everything that you sent me in the earlier years, but I was distanced. And it was really just because I had to be, because, when we talked on the last show about, being in that space, the dark space, I knew that if I just if I kept close, it was too close. It was too close, and it was too much. And so it wasn't until years of, healing that had to take place in my life before we could get more connected again.
That is such a great perspective, because sometimes the birth mother will pull back, and as a mom, Connie, you're like, what? I want to show you everything I want. You want to stay at the level 10, right, that you had before, but she's processing a lot of things that we don't understand because we didn't place. We're the ones with the baby. And
No, I did understand.
Yeah, being sensitive. I mean, have you placed a baby?
No, I don't understand
so you
that.
Can't
but
understand
I knew,
to the
depth. I
depth.
knew that I was basically just give her the space of whatever she needs. I respected it. There was never one thought of judgment ever. So, but I knew that I was obligated to give her updates and pictures, and it was easier for me to do a Christmas card and then take the cutest picture, all the best pictures of the year. I would print out and send in the Christmas card and the calendar for the next year of pictures of our family with Maeve and everything. And then, but I would also text her and say, oh, Madeline just rolled over, and so I always still update her even through texting stuff. And every once in a while she would respond. She didn't always respond, and I was okay with that. And then through the years, we slowly started talking more and more. And then eventually I said, well, we're coming to Disney World. So
Can we meet?
So I gave her notice that we were coming, and then she was 100% present. If we were not at an amusement park, she wanted to be with us. And her Aurora was only 5 weeks old.
Okay, so you keep talking about Aurora, and so if people didn't listen to the last story, we are so impressed with Jessica. Like, she went on She finished her education.
Yeah.
She got a job. She had to raise her 2 children. She got married. She had another baby girl. And now she can do life in the relationship that you had wanted, Connie. And you guys get together, and Madeline knows her biological siblings, and loves them very much.
We're
And
all family.
I got to ask you a question, though, about Maeve. Is Maeve like, you guys like have this great relationship, and Maeve was embryo adoption.
Yeah. Well, her personality also, she is like, well, this is weird.
I already like her.
But okay, this is weird. And so I said, I'd called the doctor's office, and they said, no, there are people who absolutely don't even want to know if their embryos become children.
Right.
So they said, no, you can't reach out to the biological family. I was going to write a letter. I actually wrote the letter. So anyways, I said, honestly, I think those people who were so generous in giving us those embryos didn't know what was going to happen with them, and wasn't thinking I'm giving up my child. They weren't thinking I'm losing something. They were a possibility of something, and they were so focused on their own infertility and all that they went through to finally have their own baby through IVF and then have these extra embryos, that I think they were thinking more about the infertility of a couple and what a gift that would be after everything they'd been through. And so my daughter's like, I totally get it. I totally get it. But she's very introverted. And so Jessica and I and Madeline are very extroverted. And so, it's just a little awkward for her, but just personality wise anyway. But, she's adjusted. I'm always teaching them we have to accept life on life's terms, and you have your unique story. You get to tell everyone you came from a freezer in New Jersey, which she loves.
Okay.
She likes science. She thinks it's fascinating.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I would like to say that
it's our humor.
We don't know how that family was feeling. There are a couple episodes we have where we interview the donating family. They had children and then they could not go on to carry those embryos. They donated them, and they come on, and that is an interesting interview, just how they perceive it. Not everybody is like, oh, I'm so happy to give somebody else life. Some people, this is your husband and you's DNA that you're handing over. And it was very hard for the dad. So that perspective, like, who knows what they were feeling? But I do want to say that that's an interesting conversation if you do embryo adoption versus open adoption. And I love that Jessica has adopted everybody, right? Like, she has also included Maeve. It's not like she only talks to Madeline, she's like in it with the other child. And I think that's important too, because we also have an open adoption with our girl's birth mother, but our son is closed. And then Lily is like semi-open. But whenever the girl's mom reaches out, she asks about all of them. Like, the other biological siblings call AJ the brother. They're like, how's my brother? You know what I mean? Like, you have to include everybody so that no one's left out, and then they'll have their own stories to kind of figure out. But we love that you guys have come on the show and shared your journey together. Jessica, I love that you were honest about the bumpiness of it. That it's easy to go, oh my gosh, like right now it's so good. But it was a process for you. It was a process of healing. And you got to hear the last episode. I can't wait for you to listen, Connie, because just the way that she thought of her baby as being so valuable, that is something that Noah and I wish we could tell the world. Yeah. You are pregnant with something so valuable, and that she chose life and then handed that life to you. I mean, it's a beautiful story, and I just appreciate both of you coming on. Do you have any questions before we end?
No, I think that's just the reality of the situation is it is a process, right? It's not something that happens overnight. You can't force it. And you do have to have the respect, kind of like what you said, Connie. You may not have been able to understand everything, but you had the respect to say, I'm going to give that space and give that time. And we don't know when that time is, right? It could be 6 weeks. It could be 6 years. But to continue to have that open conversation, and the beauty of that open vulnerability really it goes a long way.
I agree. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to say to those that are considering adoption and also a birth mother that might be struggling?
Well, first, I want to say thank you to you, because this podcast, I couldn't imagine listening to your shows in 2008. I think that they would have helped me maybe a little more on the healing process, or just in general talking about adoption. I just love it. And I had that blurb in my questionnaire where I really think that the conversations just need to keep happening. We have to break that stigma, the taboo that is around the word adoption. I just wish that the general population knew more about it. And I love that this is out there for everyone. So I just wanted to say that. And also, I guess, to any birth moms, I can say that I've been there. And I don't know, I guess I wish I could say, like, I'm here for you. I don't know if that's possible to get connected. I mean, I'm willing to be a resource for someone who might need some hope. My life now is so much more than I envisioned for myself. So just know that healing comes, it takes time, but life goes on and it gets better, and keep moving forward.
Yes, I love that. And then what about you, Connie?
So it was very difficult for 4 years to go through all that infertility and then have a miscarriage and trying to figure out what to do. And so I would say to any people who are going through that, just be open-minded and just, whether if you're spiritual or religious at all, know that God is going to guide you to the right situation. And just, there are more options out there now that it's just absolutely amazing. And life is magical. You can see it as tragic and sad, or you can see it as, well, this didn't work out, so what are my other options? And be open and explore and feel through it as a couple, and find the right path to start your family.
Thank you both for being here. Noah, thank you for also joining us. I love when you do these interviews. And thank you for celebrating National Adoption Month. This is a big month to talk about adoption, talk about the good, talk about the hard, and to have honest conversations so that all of these children that are getting families this month can grow into healthy adults, and that we can learn how to be better parents, how to love the triad, and how to be a voice for adoption. I thank both of you for taking the time and being with us.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
And I thank all of you for listening. We will see you next episode.
For nearly a decade, Adoption Now has shared inspiring adoption stories. Now, go behind the scenes, enjoy bonus content, and connect with our adoption community. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/adoptionnow. Or get one-on-one coaching at adoptionnowpodcast.com. If this episode moved you, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. See you next episode.
At the end of the day, I choose you.